to Robotic Marketer's first podcast. Today is incredibly exciting. Not only are we doing our very first podcast, but we're joined by this amazing woman, Richi Nayak. She's the Professor of Computer Science at Queensland University of Technology. And she is the woman behind Robotic Marketer. Whilst I may be the solutions architect, she is the woman that made it happen. She heads up a team at Queensland University of Technology of the smartest brains on the planet in robotics and AI. So welcome, Richi. Thank you so much for joining us on the show. It was back in 2016 that I had the opportunity to visit you at Queensland University of Technology and not only meet with yourself, but the rest of your team. What was a truly unique experience is the fact that so many of the leaders within that robotics and AI division were actually women. And I think from my perspective, I was extremely surprised to see how many women were actively involved in leading teams of students and PhD students in robotics and in artificial intelligence. Here I was in awe of the sheer brain power that was in front of me. And through the innovative environment which QUT has, I was able to really discuss in person with some of these really innovative minds the theory behind some of the robotics projects that you guys were working on, and really relate it back to my own business and the problem we had as a marketing consulting firm with the development of marketing strategies. You know, out of these meetings, that's truly where Robotic Marketer was born. And I know that QUT doesn't engage with every single company when it comes to developing prototypes, but we were really lucky to have formed this relationship and found that we were like minds, and that together we could produce something that really doesn't exist anywhere else in the world, not then and not today. Richi, when the idea behind Robotic Marketer was first discussed with you, I know that you could see that within your team and within the framework in which you operate, that you were able to see this project and take it to a level where it truly was a world first, particularly in that data mining area and the machine learning capabilities that you were able to really enable in the prototype. I'm just wondering, from your perspective, what made this particular project of Robotic Marketer interesting to you and your team, that you are able to take that on board and really take it to that end of life when it comes to prototypes?
Yes, so in my research group, we do a lot of work related to text mining. And as an academic, we do develop a lot of methods and we publish them. Mm-hmm. And only a few times apply them in real world, and we'll see how they have been performing. So when you and me talked about this idea, and I thought, that's a wonderful opportunity to apply these theoretical methods that exist in the academic world, but they don't see their uses on everyday basis in practical world. And in a way, those techniques exist in bit and pieces, but they were never being customized to a particular application like what you and me were talking about. So it has a lot of challenges in terms of the data collection, the uses of the data, and then making machine learning to make that data, and then in the end, how end user can be satisfied with the outcome that we provided. So those were few challenges that excited me and my team to work with an entrepreneur like you, and then application that we were talking about. That was also very interesting application. And as you kept telling us, and our quick literature review told us, that there was not really any such system existed where we could see a lot of methods that research group in very small way, but not really in combination in the scale that you were foreseeing.
Richi, there were some challenges in the early stages of developing the prototype due to, garbage in, garbage out, the quality of information that we were able to decipher from, previous marketing strategies to be able to build out that machine learning componentry. What other challenges did you have when your team was working on this particular project?
So I think I would say data quality was an issue for us, and the amount of the data. So the samples that we had, did they had sufficient diversity in them in terms of machine learning to collect all that information? So as you may have heard, with the machine learning techniques, bias is an issue. Yes. If you don't present it all kind of information, it may learn very limited data. Mm-hmm. And that's one of our concerns, was that we wanted to ensure that we do make the tools and the algorithm to face all kind of samples and all kind of cases. And we did not have that sufficient information on that. But I guess during the project, that's what we tried to overcome. With the collaboration between the two teams, we were able to come up with some front-end system where we were able to collect sufficient amount of information. Yes. So I guess one of the challenge for us was for which component machine learning can work. Mm-hmm. So for example, we wanted to utilize machine learning for competitor analysis. Based on the attributes, if we can build the model and then model actually predict whether this competitor is good or not just based on the information that we collect or what customer tells us in the preliminary workshops. So I guess that component didn't work at that time, because we could not collect sufficient amount of data where we could characterize each competitor and characterize the customer and then match those characterized to find out whether they are a competitor or not. During the project timeline, this Cambridge Analytic debacle happened.
Yes, it did.
So if you recall, we had wonderful way of using all those APIs, and we were collecting so much of quality data because there were less restrictions with APIs. But all of a sudden, this debacle happened, and Facebook completely blocked all API access. Google became very careful about giving access to their APIs. So all of a sudden, all the programs that were collecting data for us, those collectors stopped working.
Yes.
That was one big challenge where we had to change and then rework onto the data collection part. And that's where we struggled, I guess, after that, that we were not able to collect really quality data because there were so much restrictions put on those APIs.
Yes. What was most important when we were building Robotic Marketer was to be able to capture the machine learning component within the technology by utilizing 16 years, in effect, of developing marketing strategies for marketing eye clients. That relationship between a marketing consulting firm and what was a new technology company was really important, because without that machine learning, we were unable to really create a technology that could grow from past mistakes or grow from past successes and be able to identify best ways in which a company can market themselves. When you were doing this particular technology and really putting together the framework, there were a lot of experiments that Queensland University of Technology undertook. What were some of those experiments, and what were the outcomes of those experiments that really truly made this technology unique?
Some of the uniqueness this project had, that some of the information retrieval concept, some of the concepts that Google-like machines use, how to search data, they were never really utilized in terms of machine learning. So what we were trying to do, we were combining these two paradigms of information retrieval and search with machine learning or data mining. So we were creating those tools to gather the data for us, and then we were making sense out of that data. And that became some uniqueness to this model. And some of the unique models that we used were deep learning models. So deep learning models allow you to build a particular architecture in those models that can learn from that data. So in this project, we experimented with a number of those deep learning models to come up with some data. So one example is to coming up with the marketing strategies in terms of sentence representation, as these methods are known to work quite efficiently and effectively with the linguistic processing part. So we could do a lot of natural processing with them and they could do it. But again, the disadvantage of these methods are they rely on a large piece of data. So we could not use those innovative concepts in there. But now over the time, there has been some more method developed in that area where we could utilize the transfer learning. So I guess that novel concept that we wanted to utilize has become a reality now, and a very advanced way of generating those strategies can be used.
With the strategy, the fact that it automates the whole process of developing a marketing strategy and doesn't involve a human per se, that in itself, whilst it's challenging, is really quite unique, isn't it?
Yeah, as I said, that when we did a lot of marketing research, and of course you were also doing at your end, we find out that there is no end-to-end tool like that. So that's what I was saying initially, that we do have methods developed who could do part of the solution, but there was not a one end-to-end tool that can take data from the very beginning, where it actually inquires from the customer itself and then analyzes the stored data or the data online in real time and collect that information, utilize this machine learning, and then customize the machine learning output in terms of what customer is providing input to. So that is quite uniqueness in a way, that doing all these processing in real time, getting this data from the end user or from the customer.
Yeah. When we were putting together the marketing strategy components of Robotic Marketer, it was really important that we captured the ability to use digital components in the strategy development area. We are using artificial intelligence, we're using machine learning, we're using big data, we're using data mining, data scraping, all those buzzwords that we hear today, but it's something that we were working on 2 to 3 years ago, and bringing it all together so that we had an end-to-end solution, that we were able to use human input into the technology, but also really forward-thinking technologies that are changing the way in which we use data for results that are streamlined to business outcomes. What's really the most exciting thing for me with Robotic Marketer is, a lot of people would think that it competes with small to medium-sized marketing consulting firms, but in truth, it doesn't. It really is past anything a small or medium-sized business could actually develop. The time it would take for a company to develop something that we're able to do in minutes is really significant and really not plausible. When we developed Robotic Marketer, we were able to develop a strategy that it was an output or a report that came out of the system that really is akin to what you'd expect from those big five, business consulting firms or big business marketing consulting firms. So, some of the biggest in the world today that have always been the benchmark for how marketing strategies should be built. Now we're actively competing with them, but we're able to produce the same quality of work in minutes rather than weeks or months.
Yeah, and something that is quite unique to this project or to this way of generating strategies is that human is usually limited in the way what information they can obtain.
Yes.
But when we use these online tools, there is no limit. The limit is only access. You do not really want to cross the boundary and you are limited to your search where you have access to. But in that way, you have got an entire universe. These days, there is so much of online data available. You give a topic and then you can collect it. So as a human, we may be limited to few tools, but when we developed these tools, we were not limited. So for example, I remember in our system, we had 10 or 15 search engines where we were going, posing the query and getting the data. So in a way, we can say that we were consulting the entire universe to find out if they have related data. And then we collect that data and then we process at our end to find out what is good for us and what is not good for us. So in a way, it gives us the controlling capability. You collect the data, but then you just use what you want to use it for your customization. So that is quite unique in this project as well, that it allowed us to collect the data from diverse sources and then utilize in a particular customized way for marketing strategies.
It's great that you actually said that because it is true. As a marketer, I have 28 years experience and that's a lot of knowledge. But when you look at the technology, it has thousands of marketers' knowledge and experience, and that's married with the very best in technology. And the potential for that marketing strategy is unlimited. Whereas for me, if I'm to write a marketing strategy, not only does it take me a lot of time, weeks or months, I'm also very limited by my own knowledge and my own exposure and my own currency in the marketing profession. But also the ability to capture, data. We use one or two different tools if we're doing it manually. Yet with this technology, it's unlimited. And I think that is the most exciting prospect for any marketer in the world today, to be able to have access to a technology just like this that really changes their ability to predict the best possible outcome for a client, to be able to show them exactly what they need to do to achieve their business, sales and marketing goals. And that is, what we're all most proud of with Robotic Marketer. Another thing, Richi, that really strikes me as being unique about what we've done here, and it's something that I'm extremely proud of, the fact that you are a woman, I'm a woman, half of Robotic Marketer's team is actually women. And that is unheard of in the industry. It's unheard of in technology, but especially when you're going into that software robotics area or artificial intelligence. It really is skewed towards men. And we are really privileged to have a really balanced set of minds and skill base that is, 50% women and 50% men.
As all the data and numbers show that there are many women in mid-career or early career, but when you look at the senior career women, there are very few. So when I talk to in my projects or in my few years of duration where I'm doing projects, it is quite rare to see a women executive in there or a women from the other side leading the project. So I guess it was a very welcoming change for me to work with an industry partner and the company that was led by a woman, because it is quite unheard in data science area. who have very senior positions governed by women. So I guess that is, of course, a welcoming change. And we are struggling in terms of that in computer science and in universities. So it's just feeds into the system. We see it from the schools, very few girls coming to the computer science degree, then very few girls graduating and finishing through the period, and then the employment, and there is this unfair work situations and so on. So you don't come across many women as data scientists or many senior industry partners from that side as women. But I guess that is another unique point to this project. It is led by two women, one from the technical side and one from the industry side.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think that's really quite unique. And I think from our relationship, I've been able to really think about how to build out this startup. We have 50% of our staff female at Robotic Marketer. And I think that that's really a unique position to be in. I don't know if we can keep that going long term, but it was certainly when we're looking at marketing strategies and we're looking at the fact that they need to connect with target audiences. And whilst we're using technology to be able to achieve that, we do need to see both sides of the story. So having males and females work on projects, I feel is actually giving us a better product.
And that is so true, because that's the story you get from the big firms, and especially in AI and machine learning, that has been concerned that people who are decision making all about that uses, they are not really women. So they are bringing a lot of bias there. And this bias just builds on in machine learning tools when you do it. I guess that is one of the major concerns in terms of all the development of AI and machine learning tools that has been developed by, whether it's a defense or any other areas, they are governed by male scientists or the male members of the society. And there are so many stories that women are not being looked after, or are we reflecting all the correct points when we are building those systems in terms of usability.
What was interesting about working with Queensland University of Technology is the fact that you're willing to experiment, to try new things. And I suppose it can be said that in universities, many of the students are really not limited by everything that happens in the world. It's really their imagination and, really testing their capabilities and what is possible that really leads to us being able to develop something as unique as Robotic Marketer. It's truly a world first. There's nothing like it in the market anywhere in the world. We've done a lot of research, and I know that QUT have done research into ensuring that this really is truly the first software that really develops an automated marketing strategy in the world today. When we were developing this, the team comprised of data scientists, software engineers, obviously solutions architects, etc. What was really unique about that?
So QUT is called as Real World University. So this is not just for the sake of name, but that's what our practice is. And it goes from research to administrative purpose. So in this project, when we started, making the contract was one of the first hurdle. And I guess QUT enabled a lot of your constraints to be incorporated in contract. And that allowed us, the research team, then to experiment those research. In my team, I had the luxury of having some very good people. So for example, one of our early person who worked on this project was a very clever software engineer or machine learning person. So he had those combination of skills. He had bit exposure to machine learning, so could understand what is the strength of machine learning and how it could do. But at the same time, he had the capability to do software engineering.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate that it lost handy to Google. But then,
The talent.
yeah, and Bashar came in, and again, he brought some of the machine learning skills and some of the software engineering skills. So we could still develop the prototype. But of course, we don't have the capacity as your organization has this prototype into the product. So we were quite limited in terms of software engineering. We just use software engineering to develop the concept and see whether those concepts worked or not. But I guess then your company took it forward and converted this prototype into a real product.
We were partway through building Robotic Marketer when we all had to stop because Cambridge Analytica came about. And from a technology industry perspective, everywhere around the world, people were freaking out because all of these APIs were no longer effective anymore. And it was an enormous obstacle for us when we were developing Robotic Marketer because all of a sudden, all the things that were working in the first instance were no longer working for us. It was a huge challenge that we had to overcome, but it allowed us to not only overcome that, but also build out a more stable platform that could adapt more freely with a changing environment and changing rules and regulations.
That is so true. And I guess that is the advantage of industries working with universities. Working with university, we are quite up to date with research. And of course, we are the authority bodies that come and do research on new concepts, come up with the new techniques. So from the university point of view, this relationship also works well. So in that way, we are actually generating new research, generating new ideas. But when it comes to the development or re-engineering, that time, I think the companies like you who have got big resources can do that part of development, because in universities, we are limited in terms of resources, where we have got our research team focusing on new ideas, blue scope research. So I guess that was one of the points that I brought along in that project and my team, that yeah, we have got opportunity to work on a very novel idea that has never been done, never been tried. Let's utilize our advanced knowledge in this particular area and develop a system where we can prove that these concepts work, but then take it onwards and develop the system like that. And I completely agree with you that complexities that arrive or that happen during the project actually makes the project robust. Otherwise, as you said, if everything is working as expected during the project time and during the project testing period, we may not think of those concepts.
Yeah.
But when they happen automatically without thinking from the developer point of it, it gives us the capability to develop a robust system. And that's what has happened with the Robotic Marketer, that we came across with this problem, but then come around to that solutions.
What your team achieved in this project was really, truly phenomenal. And I remember being so excited as we went through each and every stage of the development. Were there any three areas that really stood out to you that your team were actually able to, build within the technology or overcome as an obstacle that really set this project apart from perhaps other projects that you work on as a team?
Yep. So I think the first thing I would say that first highlight was the concept itself, and then bringing that concept into the reality and seeing it as a prototype or a product was one highlight. That we talked about it, that there is a possibility that marketing strategies can be automated. But then doing it with the use of those technology was one highlight. And I would say that we become the pioneer developing something like that. And that would go a long way over the time, because people would come up with the similar kind of concepts to automate. So I would say that we are a couple of years ahead of people, because now the robotic automatic marketing kind of thing is just coming into age, where people are thinking about automatic every possible things that they can do it, but we already have done it. So I guess that is one of the biggest highlight. And the another highlight would be, I think, working 2 women team, where you led your part, where I led my part, and now when it's successful, it's a successful, and we can give credit.
Yeah, absolutely. And the relationship's strong. So going from here, there's further experiments that we want to do, further prototypes which extend Robotic Marketer, but also leveraging into business plans and sales plans and HR plans. All that would make perfect sense for an entity like ours to continue having that relationship. We know that you guys are ahead of the game, that you're constantly abreast of the latest techniques, and being able to have access to that is really quite unique. Thank you.